Okay, so tonight on the challenge, I want to paint a little bit more than talking. So I'm going to direct you to a meditation that is on my YouTube channel. It's a really nice grounding meditation. Do that exercise and then do the writing exercise. And I'll write a little bit in the content for today about writing and why writing is important. Because this is a really nice practice for today's theme to get into, which is thinking about your creative future. So I've been speaking about potential, and now we're going to dream up our future. So the meditation, the writing exercise will guide you into the making exercise, and they're quite nice to do in that order. So let's get into it. We're going to work with landscape tonight, and you can work either with paints or with some drawing materials. I have some crayons and some charcoal and stuff. It's more like pastels and chalk. And I'm working on a recycled piece of paper tonight. There's something else on this side. It's like a very nice newspaper. Newsprint paper. And then I'm going to work between mediums. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to think of a landscape. Think of a landscape that brings you a lot of joy, that you feel very expansive in. So for me, that is a landscape in the Eastern Cape, which I love to visit. And they have there's these really beautiful rolling hills and green grass fields. So I'm going to work with that visualization. So once you have a scene in your mind, you can just make a few very almost like basic outlines, but very quickly, like 3 or 4 lines. And you can think about composition if you want, but it's basically like a map. So you're just mapping them out in very quick lines. And then you're going to take your first medium, and I'm going to now go over to painting, but otherwise you can just color in, and you're going to do a few color blocking areas where you just with big brush strokes or with big marks just kind of block out spaces with color. So I'm going to start with the sky, and we're just going to build up this scene as like the fertile ground for our creative potential, like thinking about our creative future in the symbolics of this landscape. So you're going to block a few areas out. Yeah, so you can also work now with dry brush or by just hatching. So dry brush is when you work your brush until it's kind of without paint or just a little bit of paint, or you dip a dry brush into a little bit of paint just to make the bristles wet at the tip, and then you kind of move it around to make some textures. So I'm going to do this in this green color and just add some texture. If you're hatching is when you make lines horizontally and then vertically over each other to create this crossed dense network of lines. And you can also cross hatch, which is essentially just scribbling. So I'm going to show you here. So this is hatching. So I'm going to work between those two now because I made that mark there. That's hatching. And then cross hatching is just kind of working in various directions. So now you can fill up your drawing with some cross hatching or some dry brush. Work quickly, intuitively, without overthinking it. Just layering your drawing / painting now as you go along. And you can repeat these steps or work into this composition as much as you like after the video. But I'm going to move on to the next. So here you can see on a painting that I've already made that there is some textures here, there's some dry brush there, and now we're going to go over into contour lining. So if you want to stretch this exercise out a bit, you can do color dumping, which is essentially dumping a lot of color in one area. and then you can do lines over that, or you can color in, and then we're going to do the contour lines over that colored in patch. But I'm going to go straight onto my page with the contour lines. So we've worked with this before. You can take a thin brush or a different medium or a different color. Maybe I'll color dump over this once my painting's dry, and then you're going to start taking out forms. So you don't have to just go with the form that's there. You can make forms, and I'm using the page, this recycled page has folds in, so I'm using the folds that are there to give me some guidance as to what shapes I want to make. So then you do your contour lines, and after the writing exercise and after you've done some manifest listing and dream listing and thinking about yourself in an expansive way, you can think about all of these elements that you add into your drawing symbolically. So in your visual diary, if you want to, you can interpret all the different levels of textures and marks and colors that you use. It's really nice to intuitively let that flow. So maybe the contour lines become symbolic of repetition or of structure, or whatever it is that you're committing to in your creative practice. Okay, so I'm not going to do the entire one. Painting takes quite long in terms of that. And now with this one, I'm going to use a big brush, but you can use a fine brush. I'm going to add the next layer, which is some stipples and dots and dashes. So just making really nice marks, and this can also be layered. I've done landscapes where the mountain face is layers and layers and layers of these dashes, some longer, some shorter, and you're building up this really beautiful composition. Okay, so add some dashes until you're satisfied. You can of course pause the video if you need to, because it takes quite long. And then, going quickly, you're going to think about a symbol. So we're again working with a symbol, but two symbols tonight. One for something in the sky of your landscape, so maybe the sun or the moon or whatever appears. Maybe it's a balloon, like one of those balloons that you can fly in. I've not forgotten what they're called, but you know, the one with the little basket. So maybe you draw something like that, something that appears in the sky, and you can think of what this says about your creative future. So I'm going to paint a bright red sun, and this normally takes me quite some time because I'm not great with circles, but the indication's there. I can always layer it later. So you have something in the sky, and then you choose a plant to be in your landscape if you haven't yet. So if you're only working with the mountains and the ground and the sky for now, you're going to go over into adding some plant, and you can think about what this plant means to you and what it says about your creative future, creative potential. But I'm going to work with a palm tree because I love painting them, and to me they speak about abundance and celebration of life, you know, like that kind of feeling that you get from a tropical island. And if you have a fan brush, you can look at what I do to create the outsides, the leaves of the palm tree. Sorry, my head is feeling a bit foggy today, so I feel like English is coming a little bit difficult. My brain wants to speak Afrikaans, so let me just mix this green here. So, a fan brush is this gorgeous shaped brush. I love these, they're my favorites. So a very soft fan brush and like a paste consistency paint, you can draw up and then down, and it makes leaves, really beautiful palm tree branches. And if you draw them, it's a similar action. So you draw up the line and then you just kind of drag down. My page is a bit wet, but you drag down your tool to make the leaves of the branches. So I'm just going to paint over that wet area. So then you add some kind of plant that speaks to your creative future, something in your creative future informed by your writings. So this is why the writing exercise is important, because it's going to give a lot of guidance to how this drawing can be interpreted and how this drawing can add to the process of healing your creativity or becoming more creative or setting creative intentions. Right, so there we go. That's the prompts for the day, and you can now go on to layer this as much as you want. Maybe I want to put some grasses in the back here. I'm going to continue playing with this and share the videos with you guys soon. So just build it up and have fun with it. Keep drawing, keep making, and thinking of this very beautiful, fertile landscape or symbolic landscape as your creative future. Painting a symbolic painting of your creative future in the form of a landscape. May the muse be with you.